this next breaking rules session by Bryan Vitovsky. He's a hip-hop artist, scholar, educator, and activist. He's currently doing his PhD research at Heidelberg University, and he's going to tell us all about it, so I'll give him the stage.
Thank you very much, Afia.
Please welcome him with a warm applause.
Yeah. Can I have a little bit more on the microphone? Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, students of all elements and disciplines, my name is not Bryan Vitovsky, my name is Bryan Vit. Somehow people get my name or play with it's just a joke actually that I call myself like this. But what I'm going to talk about today is not a joke. Although humor helped me to get through this. I want to talk about my PhD project that I started 6 years ago. And I would like to start by showing you a song. And I would just like to play the song and like you to close your eyes and just listen. As we heard before, to feel and listen. Maybe you understand, maybe not. But I'd like to start like this. Thank you. Turn it up, brother.
Schreiben bedeutet sich verändern, sich von sich selbst loslösen, sich von sich trennen. Wenn er von vornherein wüsste, wohin ihn das Schreiben führt, würde er nicht schreiben.
Sprachlosen sind die ohne Sprache leiden. Ein grosser Unterschied, ob sprachlos oder schweigen. Weil Schweigen ist eine Handlung und basiert auf Entscheid. Aber sprachlos bin ich, weil es nicht anders geht. Ich habe geschwiegen und meinte mit der Verlust von der Sprache. Habe so viel Kummer und Frust in mir gehabt. Und Furcht vor Versagen, dass meine Zunge geschwollen ist und die Brust in einem Platz hat. Luft der Sprache, geschwiegene Kunst, der Text wird lang der Erste, der einen Titel bekommt. Ich will schreiben, wie es kommt, reden, wie es kommt. Kein cleveres Konzept, pseudo-bildender Grund. Zu viel, ich habe mir versprochen, niemand etwas zu versprechen. Eins, habe mir versprochen, wenn ich mich niemand zu versprechen, niemand zu reden in Floskeln, immer die Zunge auf der Waage. So bin ich verstummt, selbst Zensur von der Sprache. Meistens treffen, dass ich mit endlosen Reihen von Relativsätzen verhindere, wenn eine simple Aussage und eine Frage ist wie möglich so. Weil ich die Bedeutung vom Wort Begriffe so wörtlich habe genommen. Nicht Begriffe, dass Begriffe nicht greifbar sind. Und Begriffe zum Duden nur scheinbar verhilft sind. Weil alle Begriffe Resultat von einem Spiel und so relativ zur Zeit und verschiedenen Zielen sind. Mit Begriffen wird angegriffen, verteidigt. Mit Begriffen wird angeklagt und vereidigt. Kunstgriffen ist Sprachbilder. Politik wird Sprache gemacht und keine Position ist neutral, wenn sie geheim bleibt. Weil Proposition von Schweigen ist Verteidigung. Also bleib stumm im Spielraum und mach beleidigt. Oder brauche meine Stimme und spiele mit, ist entscheidend. Ist entscheidend. Ist der andere anders, weil es einen anderen Namen gibt fürs Land, wo er herkommt oder die Sprache, die er rettet, der nicht das Recht wie mir auf alles, was er will, solange es niemandem schadet und er Meinung verletzt. Steht es so nicht im Gesetz oder verstehe ich etwas falsch? Ist das ein Missverständnis oder mein Standpunkt falsch? Stehe ich nicht mein Verstand und wo steht der Deal auf nicht ein Missstand hier? Und wir hören ihn nicht. Und wer bestimmt, ob es stimmt oder nicht? Und gilt eine Abstimmung für dich, wenn deine Stimme nicht ist? Das ist, wenn du abstimmen willst, aber deine Stimme nicht gilt. Ist die Schweigen nicht entscheidend, sondern die Fremde bestimmt. Wirst du so nicht sprachlos oder stimmlos macht und liegt die Ignoranz von dem nicht der Sinn von Macht. Darum brauche ich meinen Stift und stifte ihn an. Brauche eure Stimme, weg, Zunge und Wahn an.
Yeah. Alright, my presentation for today, as I was introduced, as Afia said, I consider, when people ask what I do, I tell them, well, I do hip-hop. I live hip-hop. It's everything I do. But in different fields of action. So I consider myself an artist. This song was performed by me. I also did the beat. I also do graffiti, as you see with the paint on my backpack. I dress as a hip-hopper. I think as a hip-hopper. I study hip-hop. I also use hip-hop as a mode. It's media to transform what I've learned in my life, in the streets, outside of university, but also in university itself. And I also want to tell you how, after being an artist, student, and educator, how I became an activist, what the turning point was. So now is my question for you. What did you hear of this song, the song that I showed you? What did you hear? Come on, guys and girls. Yeah, what did you hear?
Sadness.
Ooh, I meant sadness. What did you hear else? I mean, really basic. What was it? A sense of power, okay. Did someone, yeah?
Reflection. Like you're kind of like rumination, you're like thinking over something like that. You're mulling like, almost like having a conversation to yourself.
Conversation to myself. That's very good. Reflection also. Other things, like really just from the beat or something. What did you hear? Did someone hear something special in the beat? Beat producer out there, what did you hear? Sorry? Heard the, sorry? Oh, the flute. All right. Did you hear the scribbles, the scribble samples that I included? All right. The small hint there. Did anyone understand a word that I said in the song? Sprache. I think the Dutch people may have understood something. All right. I'll tell you what this is about. My artist side, it's about emotions, it's about passion, it's about expressing the impressions that I gain every day when I walk around, when I learn. I consider hip-hop as my toolkit, as my methodology of a lifelong learning process. I consider hip-hop, I consider my life as a whole holistic experience. As the combination of body, mind, and soul, that every day, every second that I live, every encounter that I have with people and books that I read, that there is a connection and that I gain something from it and I also reflect it and give and pass it on. So what did you hear? You heard sound waves, you heard music, you heard the groove, you heard the sadness, you heard my feelings that I recorded my voice and put on the beat that was there. You probably thought, all right, that sounds like rap, right? Because it's spoken on a beat. We know, we understand what this is. And the goal, or the answer to the quiz, what language it is, it's Swiss German dialect. More specifically, it's Bernese Swiss German dialect. Because I don't know if you guys know it, but in Switzerland we have many dialects and we have a very strong connection to dialects. So we have the standard German that we speak officially. That's one of 4 official languages in Switzerland. German, French, Italian, and Rätoromansch. It's the 4th official language. But on the streets or with families and friends, we speak dialect. This is normal to us and it's very important to us. I'll get to this point later. Alright, now the context of the story. First of all, the beat. The sample, the crate, the vinyl for this beat, I found ironically at Bryan's record store in Canada. So my name, Bryan, comes because my father is Canadian with Czech and Ukrainian roots. He moved to Switzerland, met my mother. This is how I came into play. So I found this at Bryan's record store in a small chamber somewhere with stacked all with crates. I found it, and I've been struggling to crack, to get to this point that you described earlier perfectly, to this point where you can say, that's it, this is how this beat has to be. I chopped it and flipped it. I had like 20 versions of this beat until this version came out in the end. And now the joke about the content, because you didn't understand the content, what this was all about. This is actually one chapter, or the theory chapter, of my PhD thesis. So I've been, let's go to the next step, to the next field of action. Student. I started with rap made me a social linguist, because when I was around 12, 13, I listened to Tupac until the end of time, and it hooked me. I was hooked. I couldn't do anything else. Also, one moment I had in the record store that I heard French rap, and this combination of the melancholy, the sadness that you mentioned, somehow made me feel, gave me power, gave me everything that I need to live, to survive in this life, and to be happy as well, even at the presence of being, at the same time, sad. Okay, so I got infected with hip-hop. I got infected by the fascination of rap. And during the gymnasium, that's how we call it in Switzerland, I realized that if I want to be the best rapper, I need to understand my medium. I need to understand with what I'm working. So I realized that I need to study literature and linguistics. So this is what I did at University of Bern. I did my bachelor and my master's. I tell you why. Rap and hip-hop gave me the motivation, gave me intrinsic motivation to learn. Because when I was sitting in the seminar, and we were reading, all the classics in English and in German, I realized, that was nice. That's nice alliterations or the metaphors. Look how he or she plays with the metaphors. This is incredible. I can use this, take it and use it in my own texts. So for me, my whole study time was really just going to university with my backpack, with the way that I dress. I sit in there, I soaked up the knowledge and transformed it in my music. So I started rapping actively with 15 or so. I did 3 mixtapes and an album up till now. And then in the master's studies, I got more into the connection between language and urban studies. So the relation of how language is used to produce space, to produce meaning of space. I then analyzed that for my master thesis, an anti-capitalist Reclaim the Streets demonstration, which took place 3 years in a row in Bern. I looked at how human people use their bodies and also the urban landscape to raise their voices, to demand change in city development processes. Then, when I finished this, I moved to Heidelberg. Heidelberg is, for those who don't know, considered the birthplace of German hip-hop. Some names that you might know are Advanced Chemistry, for example, with the Pioneer's Torch, Linguist, and Tony L. This was for me the reason. This was the only place actually that I applied, because I was fascinated by the topic. I thought it's nice to stay in academia to further study this relation between language, thought, and society, and how power is involved in everything. And then an email came and it said, there are scholarships available in Heidelberg. So I applied, it worked, and 1 month later I was there. And I was not prepared actually to do this. So this is where I started my PhD project called Politics and the Housing Language, Verbal Activism in London's Housing Crisis. So, how does a Swiss guy has the idea to study the role of language in city development processes in London? It was because of structural pressure in a way. Because I was in Heidelberg, it said, yeah, you're in the English seminar, you should research a topic that is in English language. So I did. I did this, I started with reading news articles. I also applied methods, so-called corpus linguistics. So I gathered huge loads of text corpora. I used digital devices to create some keyword lists and look at the frequencies and everything, up to the point that I realized, well, still I'm doing the armchair linguist here. I'm sitting in Heidelberg, using my computer, looking at everything, copying pictures and text and so on. I thought that's not possible. I have to go there, do field study, get out in the field. So this is what I did 3 times in a row. I saw that at this time there was a huge debate in London. It was about the Housing Act. That I'm sure my brother knows a lot about this, right? So there was the demonstration against the Housing Act. I went there, I talked to activists, I talked to scholars, I went to occupied spaces to pop up squats, and I met one guy there, who changed my life. And I give shout-outs to Potent Whisper right now because, yeah, he changed the way that I thought about myself as an academic. So if you look at his post here, it says, imagine there is a line that you cannot see, about to attack you. Imagine that a friend shouts to warn you, but speaks in a language foreign to you. You don't understand the warning, and you get eaten. Academics are that friend. Consider me your translator. What he does is, in this YouTube video, and he also published a book, and he has many series of this, he calls it a rhyming guide to housing. So he uses the form of spoken word poetry to break down complex social issues, and in a language that people from the streets can understand. I was thinking then, okay, I'm in Heidelberg, I'm sitting here, I'm writing this 250 pages monography, I'm using linguistic talk, speech, I use the words, I use the terms. In the end, probably 2 or 3 people will read it, and not only read it fully, but only the introduction and the conclusion. And the people that I'm actually writing for, the people in London that are struggling, that are actually using language not only language, but all different modes of science, to critique, to criticize, to push forward social change in their interest. Oh, I'm sure me, as a German-speaking person, I don't have to tell them how to use language. They just do it. So this is politics in the housing language. This was the whole topic of maybe I have to explain. Politics in the housing language is a reference to an essay of George Orwell called Politics in the English Language, where he talks about the use of language in politics and how it's used to mislead people in a way. But not only. He also complains the use of academic language register talk, of all those phrases that people just drop and say, all right, this is what we're doing here, and people don't understand, and it's not even about what they want to say, but that it's just being said. I found myself trying to write, and at the moment where I realized that when I write, when I publish something as an academic, I become an educator. And then the question is, for whom do I write? This whole process, this reflection and evaluating on language, which is in fact metapragmatics, led me into a language crisis, into a language barrier. I couldn't, in a blockade, as we say in Swiss German. 10 minutes only.
Yeah, we'll have 10 minutes for the discussion.
Okay, I have lots to say, so I just do it. So I start here. So at this moment, I was standing there. I wasn't able to write anything or do anything. I started to write it up, and I asked, wo fange ich an mit Schreiben? Wie fange ich an mit Schreiben? Auch am besten, indem ich schreibe. Einfach schreiben. Auch wenn ich nur über das Schreiben schreibe. Ich muss schreiben. Therapie für meine Sprachkrise. I started to write, this is the introduction, these are not the 48 bars. The 48 bars will continue now. You see that I'm not only a rapper, I'm also a graffiti writer, I like to draw. So one night I woke up in the middle of the night and I realized, oh, the whole parts that I've written, I can also use another medium to maybe make it available, make it accessible to people who don't speak Swiss German. Alright, so now I would like to present to you the 48 bars of Metapragmatics. Die Sprachlosen sind die unter Sprache leiden. Ein grosser Unterschied, ob sprachlos oder schweigen. Weil Schweigen ist eine Handlung und basiert auf Entscheid. Aber sprachlos bin ich, weil es nicht anders geht. Ich habe geschwiegen und meine damit den Verlust von der Sprache. Ich habe so viel Kummer und Frust in mir gehabt und Furcht vor Versagen, dass meine Zunge geschwollen ist und die Brust innen platzt. Keine Luft für Sprache, geschweige denn Kunst. Der Text seit langem der erste, der einen Titel bekommt. Ich will schreiben, wie es kommt, reden, wie es kommt. Kein cleveres Konzept, pseudo-bildeter Brunz. Weil ich habe mir versprochen, nie mehr etwas zu versprechen. Jetzt habe ich versprochen, meine ich mich nie mehr zu versprechen. Nie mehr zu reden in Floskeln, immer die Zunge auf der Waage. So bin ich verstummt, selbst Zensur von der Sprache. Second verse. Los, wenn ich rede, ist es meistens die Regel, dass ich mehr in endlose Reihen von Relativsätzen verheddere. Weder eine simple Aussage noch eine Frage ist mir möglich so, weil ich die Bedeutung vom Wort Begriff so wörtlich genommen. Und nicht begriffen habe, dass Begriffe nicht greifbar sind und Begriffe zum Duden nur scheinbar von Hilfe sind. Weil alle Begriffe Resultat von einem Spiel sind und so relativ zur Zeit und verschiedenen Zielen sind. I make a break here. This is actually the core of the whole text. This is an application of Ludwig Wittgenstein's concept called language games. And his idea that the meaning of words, the meaning of terms, is constituted by their language, by their use in context. So the meaning of terms is dependent on who says what, in which time, at which place. This is a fundamental epiphany for academics, that when you are using the language, when you write something, when you put something out, you position yourself. You position yourself not only to an object that you're talking about, but also in relation to a group of speakers. So, what kind of language do I use? What kind of words do I use? How do I position myself? How do I want to position myself? And then there's the connection between language and power. Because you are constituting realities, you are creating realities by the way you are reproducing narratives. We have spoken about this today and the last 2 days. You're reproducing narratives or you are changing the narratives. So at one point, if you realize that this is important, that the meaning is created by human beings and is not stable, but that meaning is possible to be changed, and therefore also the world, society is possible to be changed, then there comes the question of how political are you and what kind of decisions. How do you want to decide? How do you decide to speak? I explain this further now. Mit Begriffen wird angegriffen, verteidigt. Mit Begriffen wird angeklagt und vereidigt. Kunstgriffene Sprache bildet Meinung. Politik wird der Sprache gemacht und keine. Keine Position ist neutral, noch wenn sie geheim bleibt. Weil die Proposition von Schweigen ist Verweigerung. Also, bleibe ich stumm am Spielrand und mache auf Bewegung, mache auf beleidigt, oder brauche ich meine Stimme und spiele mit? Das ist die Entscheidung. This is the question that we all have to ask ourselves. Then, in the third part, I switched the mode. I came from stating things into questioning things. And I tell you people, questioning things, questioning the things that are considered to be normal, is one of the most powerful things you can do. So use your head. Ist der andere nur anders, weil es einen anderen Namen gibt, fürs Land, wo er herkommt oder die Sprache, die er redet? Hat er nicht das Recht wie wir auf alles, was er will, solange es niemandem schadet und ihm einen verletzt? Steht es so nicht im Gesetz oder verstehe ich etwas falsch? Ist das ein Missverständnis oder mein Standpunkt falsch? Stehe ich neben meinem Verstand und wo steht ihr dir? Ruf nicht einen Missstand hin und wir hören ihn nicht. Und wer bestimmt, ob etwas stimmt oder nicht? Und gilt eine Abstimmung für dich, auch wenn deine Stimme nicht gibst? Was ist, wenn du abstimmen willst, aber deine Stimme nicht gilt? Ist dein Schweigen dann nicht Entscheidung, sondern fremdbestimmt? Wirst du so nicht sprachlos, sondern stimmlos gemacht? Und liegt in Ignoranz von dem nicht der Sinn von Macht? Darum, brauche einen Stift und stifte ihn an. Braucht eure Stimme und werdet die Zungen vag. An. Yeah. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Alright, so since time is short, I will push here through. So the question is now that this is my dissertation. So in 2017 I published a small book myself. Well, I printed it myself. I gave it to my supervisor and told her, well, actually, this is my dissertation. Well, as you can imagine, the comment was, oh, you are creative, nice, thanks, cool. Now I took it to another level because I want to ask, why not, if we're breaking rules? The rules in academia, the first rule is that I speak in dialect, right? This is but this is also not natural because this is considered or a problem of language ideologies. It's attitudes towards languages, dialects, ways of speaking, and also the speakers. So dialects are considered less prestigious than standard norms, although standard languages are just dialects that are coined that are coined standard. They're officialized in a way, right? But I have another, to use dialect in a PhD from a cognitive, rational perspective is a critique of the stigmatization of dialect in academia. But originally, the reason that I used dialect was that I wasn't able to use another language. I needed to write this text in my mother tongue because the whole feeling of being speechless, I wasn't able to break any other way than using my mother tongue dialect. So why not rap for to use as a transfer medium for academic knowledge? Well, I question. Didactic poem, for example, is one of the oldest forms of knowledge transfer, right? The griots, they used poems, poetry, oral history to transfer knowledge. It's as old as human beings. Why isn't it possible, actually, to use this? And rap with the focus on the wordplay, and this is what I did. I broke a lot of morphemes and flipped them and played with them. It's actually an applied form of the phenomenon that I was studying, called language criticism, right? So by using dialect rap, I'm questioning the persistence of the written form in academia. And I ask, especially in a digital, in a century of information and digital media, why does academia still persist on this form of knowledge, which is only accessible to those who have learned, who had the privilege, like me, the privilege to being educated, to know how to read, to learn these phrases, right? To learn these words and complicated concepts that when I speak with the guys that I'm working with at the youth center, they don't understand it. So what is the meaning? What is the sense of academic knowledge that stays in this bubble of academia? It's okay, I'm not fronting anyone. I'm just saying, for me, it wasn't real. I couldn't do it. Alright. And also, I understood at one point that I considered hip-hop as a lifelong, holistic, whole, everything together, hermeneutical learning and teaching of communication competences. I understood that I didn't only learn knowledge and pass knowledge, but also skills, and also an attitude. And together, knowledge, skills, and attitude create competences. I realized that I became a communication expert by studying rap, by studying language, by studying its relation to society, and by studying myself. Hip-hop is a form of studying yourself and becoming the master teacher. Well, as I told you, they weren't amazed. So I took it to another level. I thought I really reflected on the idea of writing, and I came up with the idea that I use, because I was studying the relation between language and space, I realized that space is also, in a way, structured spatially. That we use many metaphors, spatial metaphors, to refer to life experiences. For example, the life journey. So the journey was long, hard, and solitary, right? We referred that spatial metaphor. So I thought, why not using the space in order to talk and actually create a platform, a room, that people can experience the feeling of language in a space. You know what I'm trying to say. But I just want to tell you that I did this for 2 months. I asked the university to use a seminar room, and I tried different methods. I call it quote sampling. So I took quotes, I sampled them, I picked them, I flipped them, I put it together and so on. And in the end I did a present action. So an action in the present where I showed how my text evolved chronically, in a way. Alright, this is just for the side. After this, I wanted to quit because this was also not accepted. And I said, all right, if you guys can't accept the way that I'm studying, I'm leaving. Well, my supervisor told me, that would be sad because you're so clever and so creative and so critical. So I said, okay, I'm staying, but I'm changing topic. And I'm going outside of academia because up to this point, I was fighting alone against the system. So this is where I became activist. I realized that hip-hop is happening on the streets, it's happening out there. And I need to go out there and especially not only stay in this critique, I'm criticizing the norm, but I have to get out there, step out and radically grow something myself in order to establish something new which has the rules and the structures that fit to the way that I believe hip-hop is about love, peace, unity, learning, knowledge, and passing on positive vibes and changing society in a positive way. Okay, so I work at the youth center also parallel. After the 2.5 years of scholarship, it ended, and then I needed to work, so I went to a youth center. Now I'm working there. I built up a studio with the kids. They're now rapping and so on. You can check out Hip Hop Monday on Insta or whatever. One other step also at university was to establish something that we called the Transdisciplinary Research Colloquium. It was actually like you guys do. Besides that, the Dutch students of the game, but we had the approach that we just talk once in a week, we talk about hip-hop, and it is open for everyone. So if someone is a rapper, I consider her a rap student. This is why I introduced, in my introduction, I said students of all elements and disciplines. If someone is a graffiti writer, oh, believe me, she is studying graffiti, is studying letters, is studying dimensions, proportions, colors. Hip-hop is a very sophisticated way of learning and also transferring, practically applying knowledge, skills, and attitude in society. Alright, then at this point, I also realized if I do this, I need to learn from the best. I need to learn from those who started. So I contacted Torch. We were in contact before, but I told him, you're the master. If I need a professor, if I want to do my PhD in hip-hop, I need a professor. And you are the only one who is capable actually of telling me what hip-hop is about. I want to learn from you. So since then we are in connection. Peace out to Torch. And it was very interesting because the whole holistic concept of studying the idea, not only the elements, but also how the city works, for example, how city development processes work, who is in charge, who decides where the money goes. This is all, he calls it system analysis. And this is what we try to do in the process of establishing a hip-hop archive and research institute. We try to figure out a way of institutionalizing hip-hop that is based on the fundamental values of hip-hop, which is not an easy thing, I tell you. But this is what it's all about. So in June this year, in Corona, I had time actually to put together my vlog. Well, I did a daily video journal in a way during these 2-month phases in this room. And I put them together. It's uploaded on YouTube. It hasn't been published. You guys are actually witnessing 2 world premieres today. The song is not published yet. It was the first time that I presented it with the beat and everything. And the second one is also this YouTube story or this YouTube playlist. Hasn't been published yet. I'm still waiting for the answer of my supervisor, actually. I also sent her my album It's called Cycle or the Kreis der Krisis. The cycle of crisis. And we had it yesterday. In the end, it was, maybe we should call the conference Breaking the Cycle. And it's funny, because this is also the album title in a way. How do you get out of the cycle of crisis, of feeling separated from your values, of feeling separated from the ideas, the values that you have in your head, and the actual consequences that you take in society. To all the students who are here, just keep on pushing forward. There is nothing you cannot do. Rules are constructed, norms are constructed. If they tell us to use this and that form of writing, they can do so. But no one has the power to force you to do these things. It's just a question of whether you have fear of losing your title or getting a bad degree or something like this. It's just a question of fear. And for me, myself, everything changed at the moment where I said, I don't need a title because I'm an MC. I have a title. My name is Static Fanatic. I'm Bryan Vit. I'm the person, the human being that has an own way of studying. And if the system that tries to evaluate me doesn't fit, doesn't understand the way that I'm thinking, the way that I'm transferring my knowledge, then I have to create an own system. Thank you very much.